Honorable Justice Sikri, esteemed listeners, there could not have been a more befitting tribute to Mr. Soli Sorabjee, whose 92nd birthday we celebrate today. When I messaged Zina ma'am in the morning, she said Soli would ordinarily be deciding what clothes to wear in the evening and looking forward to his party. I have attended n number of them. His 91st birthday said, 91 and not out. So I said, sir, you will clock 100. He will clock 100 in our hearts. He lives in us. He lives with us, in our memories, in our hearts. I'm at a loss of words because the erudite and detailed exposition by Justice Sikri sums up the personality of Mr. Sorabjee. Human rights and human dignity were two words which were synonymous with the two words Soli Sorabjee. This is how I best encapsulate the three words and say he was a champion of human rights. And I could not add more to what the detailed discussion of law Honorable Justice Sikri has put forth. I put my words in a different perspective. And I begin by quoting Soli Sorabjee, Life and Times by Avinav Chandrachud, who beautifully describes him, saying, how does a Parsi lawyer, deeply influenced by the principles of Roman Catholicism, fall in love with a bhaiya and go to become the Attorney General of India for a Hindu nationalist BJP government? How does a boy with a broken leg who studied in a Gujarati medium school and who lost his father at the tender age of 19 go to mount a heroic defense of the Janta government's decision to dissolve the Congress state legislatures in the Supreme Court in 1977, and Soli came to be known as Mr. 356? How does a newspaper columnist who admires Jawaharlal Nehru, who criticizes the BJP for being obsessed with demolishing mosques and advises them to replace the word Hinduvata with Bharatavata or Indianness, get chosen by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee to represent the government in the Supreme Court in many cases, including the Ayodhya case? How does a lawyer with a humdrum excise and law taxation practice, whose grandfather sold horse-drawn carriages in Mumbai, became a UN human rights rapporteur and repeatedly defended the fundamental right to speech and expression in the Supreme Court of India? Dear listeners, this was the man, late Mr. Soli Sorabjee. A fiercely independent personality, Soli lived his life by his rules and played the game as he wanted to. Distinguished authority of law till eternity. I have been in touch with him till the age of 91, with him and Justice Sikri being part of all our 9-book releases with a foreword or a preface or a speech. He was a erudite, apolitical scholar, encyclopedia of deep-rooted infinite wisdom, personality full of instant wit and humor. He would stop in the middle of a road in a street in Australia or while hailing down a cab in London, crack an anecdote and recollect something absolutely out of the blue. A prolific writer, a jazz lover, an ardent protector of freedom of speech, a protagonist of personal liberty, a human rights watchdog. His traits were endless. Poetry, literature, architecture thrilled him. Witty, passionate, exuberant, Mr. Soli Sorabjee, fondly called Soli, though I could never call him Soli for the respect I had for him, lived life to the full. Mimicry was an art. He loved gifts. I remember when he passed away, there was a huge collection of books which he never parted with. And as Zina ma'am described it, she often asked him, what are you going to do with these books? Thankfully, Professor Rajkumar, the Vice Chancellor of Jindal Global University, came to her rescue, and he sent an army of people, packed them very nicely, and those books have found a new home, the Jindal Global University Library, where I think Mr. Sorabjee's memory still lives. And the university has started a scholarship in his honor. And I think a chair should be established in his honor because he is a man who will be remembered through his work. Twice Attorney General, one Solicitor General, advocated for justice, zest and zeal to promote budding lawyers and espouse emerging young entrants. He was held in high esteem by the legal fraternity. He was very fair to the opponents, very respectful to judges, very polite and gentle in courts, and equitable relief flowed his way. He never had qualms, no regrets, remained a paragon to emulate. He respected views and opinions. He never dated dissent. Discussion was always free and fair. He imbibed values and taught tolerance. He taught humanity. But at the same time, he loved good food, he loved good music, he loved good drink. Gastronomic delights were his favorite. Pumila cheese, Thornton chocolates, Old Par whiskey, Dhunsak, Scottish shortbread, Kiani biscuits were his favorite. And bookstores were whiskey shops. Mr. Sorabjee believed that lawyers should not limit themselves to their profession and cultivate interests in areas such as literature, public affairs, and human rights. He used to remind law students and young lawyers of the famous quote that you will always be a mason if you confine yourself to law alone. You will be considered an architect if you study literature and history, develop a taste in music and arts, and understand and implement the legacy that we inherited from the great leaders of the bar. Not just an advocate, Mr. Sorabjee was a prolific writer. Most of us do not even extend beyond reading law books, but the man he was, I think only 25% of his energy on a day would be spent on law. The rest would be his passions, his hobbies, his music, his and other interests. Mr. Sorabjee was simply one of the kindest and the most dignified human being one could ever meet. He was a passionate supporter of human rights who brought insights and vision, as Justice Sikri explained, but simultaneously lent deep integrity, warmth, and laughter. I also was to quote the paragraph which Mr. Sikri picked up from his lecture at WBNUJS, and I think that paragraph is perhaps the gist of human rights and the evolvement in so many. It's a wonderful paragraph. I read it 6 times, put highlighters and underlined it, but Justice Sikri very well quoted them. And if I think Justice Sikri on the bench finds wisdom in it, I'm sure it must be valued for worth its weight in platinum. Mr. Soli Sorabjee was an exponent of free speech, and he raised his voice against students of Jawaharlal Nehru University being slapped with sedition for expressing their interest. And he walked up to the Supreme Court and sought the release of all those students. That was the man. A man of sharp intellect and solid integrity. He will be considered to be one of the greatest legal titans of India. And he will be remembered of its contribution to the rule of law in the best democratic traditions for respecting human rights, especially the weakest. It is ironic that we need Soli today more than ever in the present situation in India. We need Mr. Sorabjee's likes in the Supreme Court and in the High Courts much more than he was when he was here. Maybe he has inspired a commitment to human rights in each one of us. If we were to be at least even 10% of what he was, I think we would achieve a milestone. I have traversed continents, conferences, tabled discussions, open houses with him, and I gained a lot in the last 20 years of his life. I will miss him, and I will commit to the Sorabjee family to celebrate his birthday every year till I breathe my last by holding a lecture to commemorate his values so that the generations to come remember him for eternity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our respected speakers for sharing their thoughts with respect to how they remember, recollect, and rejoice in the name of a titan. And I must confess, I grew up listening about Soli uncle as I knew him, and when I joined the university, I joined the center, which was then moderated and chaired by the university's former registrar. And there used to be a quote over there. It's still there. And given the vice chancellor's endorsement of the Gandhian perspective, this quote read by Gandhi, who said, and I quote Gandhi here: "Live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever," end quote. And I think that was the integration of life and a celebration of the law with which Soli uncle lived by. And such accounts and such similar accounts were encapsulated in this wonderful book, of a special copy which I keep in my office space here. And we're so grateful to the entire family for who showered us with so much love and so much integrity and so much of respect. I if Uncle was here today, I think he would have said Slava Ukraine. I think a solemn declaration and a solemn pledge to the protection and emancipation of human rights with which we all live to and which we all abide with. We miss Uncle deeply, and in his memory, at least in our household, we will cut a Shrewsbury cake and celebrate and rejoice in his name. I thank everyone present over here for taking out time. Respected sirs, we're so grateful for your time and your extremely insightful words. We're so thankful and we're extremely honored and delighted. Sir, thank you so much. Final words, sir. Sir, we can then
Your final words.
My final words.
Yes, sir.
I'll only say, since this is meant for student, and one of the most prestigious, I would not say one of the most prestigious law university in India, and one of the premier in the world today. And the students must read the life of Soli, the contribution of Soli. You will learn a lot, because in these formative years, reading the stories, and as Ankit has shown that book also, of such stalwarts, they are a source of encouragement. They are a source of even inspiration. They will inspire you a lot. They will guide you a lot. So therefore, apart from other, books which you have to read as law courses, please go through the life and the contribution of Soli, insofar as various branches of law are concerned. It's not only human rights, but yes, human rights was dear to his heart. So, and therefore we spoke about human rights, but he was an outstanding lawyer. And as Anilji has rightly mentioned, that if you are confined only, and that those were his words, to law only, you are a mason. But if you have interest, other hobbies as well, like he had in music and reading other than law, etc., then you are an architect. So become an architect. This is one leaf from his life or from his book, which you can emulate today itself. So that would be my message to the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for coming, sir. Thank you for the lecture, sir. It was most insightful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. We're so grateful, and we look forward to our future discussions and correspondences with you. And we will bother you further now, which we sincerely hope will be a duty with which we will be blessed to have your presence and participation. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir.